I think my earliest memory of going on an adventure was probably when I was 3 or 4 years old, and I used to get up very early at my granny's house before anyone was awake and tiptoe down out through the kitchen and into the sort of dewy midsummer dawn of her garden, which was covered in dew, and the birds would be singing, and it really felt like this was my place before anyone else got up for the day, until of course I was discovered, and then my mother told me I wasn't allowed to go out to the garden by myself. I think I was only 3 or 4.
So I always remember there was one morning when Dad got me and my brother up. He woke us up really, really early. It was the middle of the night. He wanted to take us to see the dawn chorus, to hear the dawn chorus. So we put on our Wellington boots and our jumpers, and we walked for what seemed like absolutely miles, but probably wasn't very far. And we stood there in the woods and we listened. And then the bird song started, and this cascade of bird song. And it was absolutely amazing. We walked back. We were full of that experience as we walked back.
And I remember kind of being in the Lake District and in the Scottish Highlands with my brother, just kind of out and about playing adventurers, playing explorers. And there was also an element. I was the only girl, so I was surrounded by all my brother, his friends, all my nephews. And I was kind of the only girl, and it was that matter of kind of proving myself. Not that I was kind of as good as them, but I was better than them. So there was very much that kind of tomboy kind of proving myself element to it.
Some of my earliest memories of adventure was just when I was really little, and we'd go out into the forest and have a go at finding animal prints in the mud and casting them, and then going for night walks and listening to all the creatures in the night. And that was really small but really special.
So my parents were like really massive hill walkers. They actually met on a hiking trip when my mum was working in Iceland. So I say I owe my existence to hill walking. And I remember they took me on it was just like a little rambling association walk. I think I was 4, maybe 5. It was so short. It was about 3 miles. And I think it was because I was being made to do something, and I've always been stubborn, however surprising that may seem. And I just cried the entire way, especially going uphill. I felt like I was being tortured. And at the end of it, my mum gave me a certificate to say, well done for completing this walk.
I think one of my earliest memories was going camping with my family when I was a young girl. We camped in a tent on a beach, and we lived in Africa at the time. I can remember hearing the crabs scuttling outside the tent.
So I grew up in the Middle East when I was 6 months old. I moved to around the United Arab Emirates and in Qatar. We moved around those areas, and the desert was my backyard. So me and my sister running around in the desert, finding old huts, and I think one day I must have only been 3 or 4, climbing to the top of it and falling through, and parents taking me to hospital. But there was always something to be found in the desert, although people don't think that there is.
My earliest memory of adventure was when I was 4 and we climbed Mount Snowdon in Wales.
Well, my father was in the army, and in those days, and as I say, I'm 87, so I go back pre-war, the army wives and children followed the men. So we used to spend our summers up in the mountains. And my really first experience, I remember of sitting in the back of a donkey in a basket, looking over the side at glaciers and all that sort of stuff. I mean, it was just perfectly normal. It's what you did.
I remember when I was a young child just being taken at the weekends out to forests for picnics, and nothing spectacular, but just getting outdoors and maybe going for a walk, climbing a hill, something simple like that.
And then I also joined the Duke of Edinburgh scheme, because I loved camping. I'd done quite a lot of cycle camping and that sort of thing when I was 15 or 16 in Dorset and Somerset. But we thought, well, yeah, we could do this as part of Duke of Edinburgh. And we headed off to Snowdonia with our rucksacks, me and my school friends, and we had some incredible adventures up there. And that's where I think I first started doing wild swimming, because there were waterfalls everywhere and rivers, and we had some great weather. But we also explored some of the amazing old ruins in Snowdonia, and just trekking and wild camping up in the mountains. Camping on top of a mountain and watching the sun go down is an incredible experience. And I think it was those experiences in Snowdonia in the sixth form that really made me think I wanted a life of adventure.
Sort of early memories of adventures would be to go and play in the woods with my family. So mum, dad, me and my brother, and we'd swing on trees and we'd climb trees, a lot of climbing trees, getting grubby, grassy knees, getting stung with stinging nettles. And in a funny way, I think as adults, when you do those things again, you go camping and you get really, you don't necessarily have particularly clean clothes for a few days, and you get grubby knees. And it reminds you, actually, childhood adventures, and then carrying those adventures on into when you're adults is, I think, a really good thing.